Hello, everyone. On the 10th of September, we are going to have a full moon, a Pisces full moon. And Pisces Virgo dichotomy may be interesting because for some reason we label both of them with some sort of self-sacrifice, although neither of them is really truly linked to the concept of sacrifice, to my mind. Virgo, if Virgo sacrifices something, it is always work, hard labor. And of course, by doing it, they invariably tell us that we should be grateful. So if it's not really just the concept of sacrifice. And with Pisces, I know that the traditional concept of sacrifice is very strongly linked to Virgo, but to Pisces. But I really think that it's not what I would consider a sacrifice per se, because in the behavior of Pisces, simply what you see is that he or she is unable to realize where he or she ends and when the other thing starts. So these people are unified with the universe. They are one with the universe. They are one with their surroundings. And they are simply giving because they are giving to themselves, really, because they have no idea where they finish and where the rest of the world starts. So that's particularly my concept of Pisces. Now, this Pisces full moon is on the fixed star Asterion. This is something that I've never talked about. So this is the first time ever I talk about Asterion, a fixed star Asterion in a video, or even if for my students. And the reason is because it's the beta star, not even the brightest star. It's the beta star of the hunting dogs. I have the Latin word as well, but this is how you can find. And this is not a particularly bright constellation, and you don't even have too much or relevant myths linked to it. But if you know that a hunter needs dogs in order to really rat out, let's use this expression, I don't really like it, but I don't know how to express the fact that if you are hunting and you have dogs and you want these animals to come out of their hiding place, you need to have dogs. The dogs are pushing them out, and then you can shoot them. So the hunting dogs are some sort of helper of a hunter, but also the very vehicle by which the hunter is able to conquer these animals, to kill these animals. And I'm not a pacifist. I think hunting is important because that is how you can actually help to manage or maintain the health of a forest. So it's important. But the beta star is always the shadow star of a constellation. Now, it simply means then that Asterion is, by the way, it has very, very negative connotations. If you read what people say about Asterion, it's always very, very negative. And I always say that a fixed star cannot bring negative things simply because it's not the part of the human existence. It's part of the universal existence, part of the universe. And the universe cannot bring you bad things. We can choose to utilize it in a bad way or in a negative way, but that doesn't mean it's negative at all. Let's take a look at the moment of the full moon in London. It's on September the 10th at 10:59 a.m. In Budapest, it's at noon. And these are the highlights. You have asteroid Lilith on the midheaven. You have the dark moon Lilith on retrograde Mercury, and the black moon Lilith is making a sextile, and trying to the moon and the sextile to the sun of the full moon energy. So those are the highs. So it's a very strongly Lilith oriented full moon. There's also Mars conjunct the Vertex, which means that's the point where you don't have free will. So for Londoners or for England, this is a moment in time when your actions or your fighting spirit may be taken away. You still have the Saturn-Uranus square, which won't be exact. It's not going to be exact this time, but it will be within 1 degree for quite a while, up till maybe the middle of October, even further. So for the autumn months, September, October, November, you will have this square, and the impact will be there. The moon is still on the, actually it's an applying conjunction to the Juno-Astrea conjunction, which are the two asteroids are retrograding at the moment, but they travel together. In the London chart, you have Saturn on the IC. Look around what's happening to homes with the energy prices. And Scorpio is rising, making a sextile to Venus. And the big lock and little lock are forming Yod, a finger of fate, at the apex of which is Jupiter. So those are the highlights. And you still have this is an interesting midpoint structure. Chiron is at the midpoint of Jupiter Aries. Aries means drastically altered outward circumstances, whereas Jupiter enlarges and blows up everything it touches, and Chiron is at the midpoint of this. And if we go back to the Lilith, the asteroid Lilith denotes revolt against injustice on the midheaven for Londoners. The dark moon denotes the acceptance of the curse. At the moment, mainstream media, it has a lot to answer for. It has been it has been like this for quite a while. I mean, but it has become really, really bad in the last maybe 7 to 10 years, and it's getting worse. Okay, and then the black moon Lilith is when Lilith goes back to the Garden of Eden. So it brings us a dutifully performed task where you need courage and endurance and stamina and honor. That's what it means. And here are Canes Venatici or Tici, I don't know, probably TC because it's Latin. Okay, so that's the space-time moment. Now there is a complex planetary picture at 17, 18 degrees of the signs. You have the Sun-Moon opposition. I did include the Juno-Astrea conjunction, although it's like about 3 degrees, simply because the opposition is there and the moon is somehow sucking them in. This is an applying conjunction. And here's the trapeze. This is a classical trapeze. The Sun-Moon opposition. Then you have the black moon Lilith, Sun sextile, and the Uranus moon sextile as their sides. So those are the sides. The basis is the opposition, of course, the full moon opposition. The inside is made up by 2 trines, the Lilith moon trine, the strong feminine energy, and the Uranus sun trine, change and transformation, and the energy of I want to do something differently. And the top of this, there's always a stage. The trapezes are always stages. Is the Lilith Uranus sextile, which has been there for quite a while, and it's still going to be within orb for a couple of more days, even weeks. And you have 2 angel wings. One is the Sun Lilith, asteroid Lilith, at the apex of the asteroid Lilith, and of course the midheaven for the London chart. And the other one, so here it is a very, very dark, deep Lilith theme. Revolt against injustice is going to be highlighted in the upcoming weeks in London or throughout England, where you need to do what you need to do in order to fight injustice and to be there to really stand by what is right. And then the other little angel wing is only in London because the IC is there, and Chiron IC sextile, at the apex of which is the moon. And to some extent, although the 30 degree has a very tight of only 1 degree, so it's actually the moon. So that's what you have. The two apexes are revolt against injustice and midheaven, and the moon, which is your spiritual essence, but in mundane charts also the people. That's for the London chart. Here you see some transcendental celestial objects. On the sun, you have Tyr, which is equivalent to Mars. So it's a fighting, it's a war god for the Norse in Norse mythology. And then Asterion, which is Alpha Canes Venatici. And just for you to laugh, I took a look at who had the Sun conjunct actually aligned with Asterion, and believe it or not, it was the Tsar, Ivan the Horrible, or Ivan, I don't know, Ivan, actually, you call it Ivan. I was really laughing at that because that is something that he was one of the strongest tsars who actually became quite mad at the end, but he was really, really feared and shunned. Anyhow, so that's the space-time moment. And on the moon you have Seneca, the statesman and philosopher. On Uranus, you have Imhotep and Lempo. Imhotep is the polymath. In Egypt, he was a priest, a high priest, also a physician, and also an architect. So so he was really on a very high level. And Lempo is it's a TNO. In comic astrology, we say centaur, but of course, all centaurs are not centaurs when you look at it from an astronomical viewpoint. So Lempo is a TNO, trans-Neptunian, with approximately 300-year orbit. And Lempo is a main character in Finnish mythology. And before Christianity, he used to be the chief god who actually created Väinämöinen. So it was a very nice, beneficial, good god. And then came Roman Christian Catholicism, and he was turned into a horrible demon. And the karma linked to Lempo is practically this, that whenever you have an old religion, in order for a new one to replace the old, you need to demonize the old. That is also about power, about political power. You always need to demonize your opponent, your adversary. And if you want to have a strong, nicely founded religion, you need to get rid of the old ones. And that is actually what happens also in Greek mythology, because the old gods were the Titans, for instance, and of course they were done away by Zeus and his brothers. So it happens all the time. So that's the karma link to it. On the black moon, you have fantasy, Hephaestus, the lame smith who is creating. He's an invalid, but he's creating beautiful things. And Eheclus, a centaur, he's a true centaur that is linked to the dilemmas of truth and reality. What is truth and what is reality? Truth opposed to reality. And if you consider how this war propaganda from both sides really tries to distort knowledge and truth, that you might be interested in what is going on. That's on the black moon. And on the Juno Astrea, you have Nessus, Ahernar. Nessus, I talked about it for quite a long time in some previous videos, but in Nessus, the figure of Nessus, again, a true centaur, you have karmic wounds around black magic and near-death experiences and healing through death and some kind of redemption energy. That's all linked to Nessus. And Ahernar is Alpha Eridanus, and it is the longest constellation, Eridanus. It starts at the celestial equator and it goes all the way down to the south pole, where it has its brightest star, Ahernar, and it symbolizes a man's journey where he leaves the equilibrium, he leaves the balanced, nice little life, his comfort zone, in order to start a journey, a quest. And it's hard and long, and at the end, at the same time, there's the reward, the shining alpha star. That's what it symbolizes. I think I managed everything to incorporate everything. Okay, yes, I think I said the moon was on Seneca. Okay, now what happens if we try to find more objects, celestial objects at 17, 18 degrees? And this is what we get, a Merkaba, two grand trines turned into a grand sextile. And the reason I put this here, because here I can explain to you what the difference is between celestial objects that are linked, that are on an existing chart point, and then the added ones. On the existing chart points, if you find any celestial objects, and again, just to remind you, the asteroids denote the personal level of karma. The centaurs describe centaurs and TNOs and SZOs and all those trans-Neptunians describe karmic wounds, the nature of karmic wounds, how you got them. Of course, Chiron is the sum total of your karmic wounds, but then the rest of the centaurs tell the story. And then the fixed stars are not in the solar system, they are in the universe, and they denote worlds where you can incarnate and you can have actually existence is there, so you can actually go there in your spirit form, not in the physical body, of course, and then you can actually either heal a very old wound or a difficult wound, or you can prepare yourself for a difficult incarnation. So those are the celestial objects. Now, if they are linked to a chart point, to an energy already existing in your chart, your sun, your moon, your Venus, whatever, then they are downloaded through that particular archetype, through that particular celestial object or planet or a chart point, like on the MC or your ascendant. So they bring these down. If it's on your sun, it helps you in your processes of ego development. If it's on your ascendant, then you manifest it by your physical body or by your behavior. If it's on your moon, you carry it in your spiritual essence, and so on. So those really rectify or change or modify the original energies in your chart. But if you want to play around and try to find other celestial objects that are not on chart points, but simply create nice planetary pictures like this Merkaba, those are not really easily downloaded. They can only be downloaded through the configuration, through the planetary picture they create. So that's the difference. And I'm not going to tell you, I just want to show you that this original configuration that I showed you here, okay, actually will be turned into a Merkaba by Typhoon, Asclepius, and Minerva. Minerva is the asteroid of wisdom. She's a pair of Pallas Athena in Latin mythology, in Roman mythology. And Typhoon Asclepius is interesting because Asclepius is the healer and Typhoon is the destroyer. So again, you have the destroying energy of nature, and at the same time, mankind's or man's ability or wish to rectify, to heal it. That's the Merkaba. And then there's another interesting planetary picture if we take into consideration the MCIC of the London chart. This is only in the London chart. Interesting enough, the Budapest chart has another fixed ground cross through the ascendant-descendant, but this one is through the MCIC, and Lilith, of course, is involved. And it is the nodal axis on the one hand and the MCIC on the other. And it gets dissolved by Chiron on the one hand, and also the Lilith, Juno Asterion conjunction. This is a fixed water engine right here. And you have various little angel wings as well. And then if we want to take a look at the transcendental celestial objects linked to this particular ground cross, fixed ground cross, you have a lot of fixed stars. The previous one didn't really have too many, except for the ones that I showed you. On the north node, you have Menkar and Almach. Menkar is the alpha star of Set, of the Cetus, and it guards or governs, or actually guards is a good way, of the liminal space between the constellations Aries and Taurus, where they don't link, and the Set is below the ecliptic, really. So there is a couple of degrees, maybe 10, 13 degrees that are not linked by the two constellations, and that is why the Set can come up. And Bernard Brady said about Menkar that it is your subconscious urges coming to the surface. I link insight and psychic abilities to Menkar. And then Almach, which is Gamma Andromeda, which is a northern constellation, so it's well above the ecliptic, is the third brightest star in Andromeda. And Almach simply means in Hebrew or biblical Hebrew, a young woman, a virgin, that we can say that. So it's cleanliness, it's the young feminine who is bound, because as you know, Andromeda is bound and waiting for the Set to devour her. And what is interesting about the whole thing that you have two stars which are linked by astrological degree, but totally at a different space in the night sky. On the south node, you have Zubenel Ganubi, which is Alpha Libra, which is linked to positive social reforming and changes. On the Juno Asterion of Nessus and Ahernar, we spoke about this already. On Chiron, you have Sphinx and Alpharats. Sphinx, the secret or the Egyptian secret knowledge, and Alpharats, which is Alpha Andromeda, again linked to the princess who is bound by his father and left out for the Set to devour her, and of course she then is rescued. But Alpha Andromeda, Alpharats, which is about 14 degrees, 15 degrees Aries, is the second important healing place for suicide victims. The first one is Sheat, which is at 29 degrees Pisces. And that is the world where fresh, newly committed suicide victims are taken immediately after realizing that the greatest sin that they can commit is to destroy the physical body, which is the vehicle of this incarnation, the vehicle of the soul. But the second place is Alpharats, where you learn to get rid of the bondage, the bondages that led to, or the burdens or the baggages that led you to get rid of your life, of your physical body. So that's the second important healing place. So that's it. I think we don't have anything else. There are more stuff in the Budapest chart for some reason. There I had made a lot more drawings, and it's a longer video as well. The important thing is that this particular full moon will be about sacrifices that the powers that we want us to do, whether we are willing or not. They're taking away everything from us. They're taking, it's either, the way I see it is, either we are going to comply and allow the EU and the United States to simply put a war government above us. And in this way, we will have very harsh measures, very harsh laws, martial laws, really rationing and things like that. So they will tell you what to eat, how to behave, what to drive, how to commute, how to go to work, what to work, things like that. So we are going back to communism and totalitarianism. Or they will be waiting for us to revolt and maybe do some civil war or some revolution stuff. And then we will kill each other conveniently, and they don't even have to interfere. And then they can come in and say, okay, now we are going to put things in order or create order. And then they will have those measures. Either or, that's their plan. And that's something that they will try to implement. So we need to be very careful. We need to be very wise, very calm, contented, not to jump to harsh conclusions. And please pay attention to the news and look behind the news, look behind the facade that mainstream media or legacy media wants us to believe. No, it's not what you see, and it's the picture is always something very, very different. This is just the facade that they are painting for us. And pay attention to actual laws, actual bills that they are suggesting, or actual rulings that they are doing. And then you will be able to realize what is going on. Happy new moon. Sorry, I haven't been able to give you more news or good news. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.